And here we are right now in a very special time. I mean, right at this moment, both Jupiter and Saturn aligned here in the skies, getting closer and closer here on the um, winter solstice just coming up here on the 21st of December. They're going to be so close together that evidently, it will appear as one. And there is some historical interest in that. And it brings up a whole interesting discussion here about what happens when these two giants, get together. And in the old days, let's say before the planet Uranus, which was in 1781, that was the extent of what astrologers were peering into the sky and seeing. Saturn was the furthest planet out, and there was nothing beyond that. And so the astrologers of yore were paying close attention to them, and they were working a lot with what kind of cycles are they making. And one of the things that has been known for centuries and centuries is about the great mutation. And I have been reluctant to use that word because of our modern connotations of that. But back in the day, even references in the 14th century was that the great mutation, just a mutation meant it was a change of form. And astrologically, these changes, these evolutionary changes, goes from element to element. For approximately 200 years, these conjunctions are in fire signs, then they go to earth signs, then they go to air signs, and then to water signs. Altogether, that would be the 800-year cycle. So yeah, huge, swaths of time. And as we know, this particular Jupiter-Saturn conjunction coming up here very soon will be at 0 degrees Aquarius on the propitious day of the winter solstice, making it especially potent because one oftentimes, as astrologers, you calculate the equinoxes and the solstices just for predictive purposes, for mundane astrology, for world events, and so forth. And the fact that it's happening on the very same day, just a few hours later, it's like, wow, yeah. And I heard it also mentioned that, it depends on, what time zone you are in. So for some people, of course, it's going to be the next day, the 22nd, but we see it here still within hours of the Capricorn solstice. I have to be careful sometimes about calling it the winter solstice because back down in Brazil and South Africa, it's summer solstice. We have to just recognize and be fair. Wow, what an interesting time this is. And I am a little bit frustrated because in the last 3 days, I've been out looking into the stars and it has been foggy or cloudy or rainy, and I haven't really seen anything. So I'm hoping, next couple of days, it's going to be, a lot clearer. I would invite you also here on the 21st, but hey, they're getting closer and closer. They're so close anyway. For your own sake, just take a look and find out, which house in your own personal chart they are activating. That would be 0 Aquarius, wherever that is in your chart. But then also on the day itself, on the 21st, on the winter solstice time, the Capricorn solstice. Yeah, ceremonies, prayers, meditations, positive thinking, combining in goodwill and positive thinking with other friends and community members. Many good and positive things can be planted there in this hope of a new time, of a new phase. And I personally, I'm quite excited with this. I think it's going to be really great and to see what's going on here in this new Aquarian age. My slant on things, and perhaps many of you also share this, is that many of these phases and cycles, there is this giant phonograph in the sky, you know, three-dimensional, of course, much greater than that. And it is the music of the spheres. And each of them having their particular tone, their vibration, their character, their characteristics, you know, of Jupiter being expansive and benevolent and far-thinking and inclusive and international and so forth. And imagine that as a song or sounds or a symphony, you know, and then it goes around its cycles here in 12 years going around the zodiac. And then we have the Saturn thing, a little bit more somber, called the Great Malefic. You know, it had a bad rap for a long time, but people are recognizing that we do need to have discipline and boundaries and borders and you know, keeping to time scales and schedules and so forth. So yeah, it too, with its 29-year cycle around the zodiac, and then every 20 years they come together in this conjunction as they are coming here right now. And so, yeah, it is a special time. And it's not going to be for another 20 years that we're going to say, wow, here's another one of these when they line up. And it will line up in another air sign, because it has started with this one here, a consistent package of about 200 years worth of conjunctions in the 3 air signs. And Gemini is about communicating, Libra is relating, and Aquarius is congregating. And so we've got 200 years of that coming up, recognizing that we have had here in the last 200 years, it was in the earth signs since the early 1820s. And at the end of each of these phases, there could be a 20-year period that there will be an overlap. You know, for instance, that just happened here in 1980. It was a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Libra. And so it was an air sign. But that's also kind of like a thing foretold about what's going to be happening here with this continuation of this great mutation, or the great air evolutionary phase here for the next 200 years, starting with Aquarius, but always here into the next air sign. So we learn from the past that we can then apply into the future. That's how I always go, because I've got a Capricorn moon. And the 1980s, wow, what a time that was. The personal computers, you know, kind of arriving right on time in that air sign, as well as the development of computers and techno devices and phones, and then the World Wide Web that has totally changed everything. In fact, we're experiencing that here right now. It's just been phenomenal, all the different things that have happened. And then also during this Libra time, new negotiations, thinking Libra, balancing, coming to relating, and new relationships and diplomatic and legal agreements during those times. And there are other aspects involved with this, but during this very same time, you know, we had, of course, the fall of the Soviet Union, and then new countries came to be, new relationships, new names, countries that we hadn't seen or hadn't been autonomous for a long time. Suddenly, during this time of an air sign, they were free and independent and stretching their wings, as it were. And yeah, we're going to see some more of that in the future. But also 1980s, 1990s, remember all of the music and the dancing and all of the aerobics classes and getting fit and Jane Fonda and the leggings and then the hair, all that hair. I mean, oh, that's also part of that Libra phase there. It was really quite a fun time until that Saturn and Pluto thing came in. Also, the very tail end of Libra, by the way, that kind of spoiled the party. By the way, that the AIDS epidemic is still happening. You know, you know, like some of these other things that came for sometimes months and then disappeared as an illness. Some have, it is still with us today. So yeah, very intense. But that's another aspect. I'm talking about the earth and air aspects at this point. We go back into the last 200 years, and then we had, wow, all kinds of focus upon commodities and getting oil and mines and things from the earth. Remember, it was the earth sign, and more products, of course, more consumerism, more money, more wealth. But all of that came during this earth sign 200 years. Again, a little taste of that 1980s, 1990s air sign element will give us also a taste of what's to come here with the Aquarian phase starting right now, this, next week, and going on for the next 20 years, and then on for the next 200 years. This is all connected with improvements and, again, yeah, technological sorts of things, recognizing that we have to watch out there, because at the end of that 20-year Libra phase, an air sign, we had the dot-com bubble bursts, because again, all of the, I remember that in the 1990s, these companies, just with their name on a web page, suddenly people were investing in it because it was the next big thing, and then we had AOL and other companies that kind of grew and then shrank. Having to watch out that the investors, the speculators, jump onto whichever element happens to be high at the time or in at the time. Here, most recently, this last one in Taurus that started in the year 2000 until now, it's been a Taurus Earth phase, and again, the very tail end of that. So there was a focus upon Earth-oriented types of speculations and investments. And so one of the things that was overdone was the real estate investment, which then blew up in 2008, 2009, coincidentally, when Pluto went into Capricorn. It was just within weeks, I think, that we were seeing the problems with that. But still, fortunes were made, and a lot of people had losses during that times. Again, the thing that one has to watch for is that the stock market and speculations really focus on whatever happens to be the in thing. A positive thing, however, connected with the earth sign element was the genome was coded and analyzed, and they thought it was going to be a lot more elaborate than it turned out to be. But what a great thing that happened again during an earth sign elemental phase. And unfortunately, there were also speculations on everyday foods, grains and rice and beans and things like that. And then there were some protests in many third world countries because, people speculating on their foodstuffs caused a lot of pain. 2020, again, is the end of that Earth phase, and the Earth has been in poor shape. We're talking about climate change and worldwide fires, as well as needing to kind of like be collectively more responsible for things. One more item here from that Libra, Jupiter, Saturn first taste of the air sign in the 80s and 90s. You may recall that all kinds of positive workshops and relationship books and relationship workshops, as well as astrology and metaphysics and the New Age. Remember all that? That was during this time in an air sign. Okay, so this is an easy prediction starting here right now on into the next 20 years, on into the next 200 years, where we have, yeah, it is a great for astrologers, for metaphysics, for spirituality, for intuitive arts, for a lot of things that uses, let's say, the higher mind. At the same time, there's going to be a recognition and an appreciation, a re-appreciation of science, of facts. I mean, Aquarius, fixed sign Aquarius, yeah, they want to have designs, they want to have schematics, they want to figure out what's right, and they have very little patience for alternative facts. They want to have collected ideas moving towards specific understandings of things. Good news, good news. Personally, I am looking forward to some of these new techno toys, including the holodeck. Huh? That would be good. I'm waiting for that one. We've been talking about the elements, and as I had said, each of these elements here in this great mutation, I hate that word, but the evolutionary elemental phases goes very clearly, you know, from the fire signs to the earth, air, water. And one of the things that we have heard was that this particular alignment coming up very soon, the 21st of December, they haven't seen it this close since 1226. Well, of course, you know, I had to get my old computer solar fire calculator out and take a look and see what was happening back then. And yeah, it was also in an air sign in Aquarius. And part of the discussion that we've been hearing here, and I'd even have to say that, you know, any children born at this time, you know, this last week, the week coming up, and, you know, they've got this very close Jupiter-Saturn thing, the ancient astrologers would have said, wow, that's very propitious. So I again looked back there in 1226. And the good news was that Francis of Assisi was still alive. The bad news was that he died later on that year, about 8 months later. Genghis Khan was alive. He died 1 year after that. So no great positive things there that we can talk about, or special children born as I know about. There's always these, you know, wonder children and prophets in their own land. You know, I'm sure that they were in quite a few different places around the world, but historically, I didn't come across any of them. However, the 1220s, 1230s, the early 13th century, the time of troubadours, trouvères, lyric poets, and they had their songs and courtly love and proper etiquette and gentlemanly types of manners. That was on the social front. Remember, this was an air sign. But it was also during that time we had the rediscovery, and this was worldwide, rediscovery and appreciation of the ancient philosophical texts. And that was kind of like a mini Renaissance. And there were religious and philosophical studies, illustrated books, manuscripts from early Christianity, as well as Islam, Buddhism also, Confucianism, Taoism, all of Confucianism, I mean, scholarly studies in all of them. And as I said, over mostly in the West, it was through that, the rediscovery, which is a renaissance of the ancient wisdom, you know, slowly brought back into usually the monasteries and into the cloisters, into the smaller areas. Took a while then to blossom into the Renaissance that came in the 1400s and 1500s, special time. Now, another thing that's been discussed here because of this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is, oh, it's like the Bethlehem star. Well, of course, being Mr. Curious Scorpio Capricorn, got to take a look at that too. Here is what happened in 7 BC. This was the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. And if there is, discussion about this, could this have been the double star? Could have this been the bright star when they come together so closely that they look as one? It's quite appropriate, I'd have to say, in Pisces, of the Pisces age, of a prophet of the Pisces age. And here, this is, of course, just a speculation chart here too. Sun in Sagittarius, conjunct Mercury. Here's a teacher, a carpenter, perhaps with Mars in Capricorn up there in the 9th house. Again, all speculation. The message of love there with Venus and Neptune here in Scorpio in the 6th house. Yeah, really, who knows? However, yeah, it's interesting to speculate about that. They already discovered that this, let's say, Western calendar that we are using has been off and has been off for a long time, because Herod, according to the Bible, of course, was part of the scene when he was born. And they found out later that he died in 4 BC. So then Jesus had to have been born before 4 BC. And here we have this alignment, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction here in Pisces here, 7 BC. This is December. And had we, back to speculation again, had a correct chart of Jesus, and then this chart would have been like year 0, and then we would have came across our year 2000 a little bit earlier, approximately like 1993, 1994, somewhere around there. And what was happening there, except we had that fabulous Neptune-Uranus conjunction, which, in Capricorn then, to me, that was truly the sign of the World Wide Web. And we were, connected, much more closely, since then, since that time. Really, really fabulous there. So had that been true, then our present 1994 would have been actually, had they done the calculations, that would have been the year 2000. And then that song 1999, where would that go? I don't know. I'm speculating. So what does all this mean? Is that we're supposed to be paying attention to the signs, and there are these great cycles, and there are lessons involved with that, and there are people who will be, let's say, attuned to the greater wisdom from period to period, from aspect to the divine music of the spheres, of the great cycles. And when we are in tune with that, and as well as in tune with our own self, our own higher selves, and I do a lot of that work, by the way, as a hypnotherapist, helping people to get into past lives and into the life between life. I've been very fascinated with that for decades. And yeah, there's been a couple of times where someone's spirit guide, gave them a severe talking to, and that's pretty awesome to witness that. Whereas all is this leading us, except that we're supposed to be surfing the cosmic now. And the now that we are really surfing, this is the wave right here, right now. The 2 big planets now in Aquarius, soon to meet in early Aquarius, marking time then for the next 20 years, for the next 200 years of advancements, of technology, of innovations. And on a human societal level, we're talking about Aquarian groupings and communities, and reimagining how we can connect with each other. And look at the magic that's happening right here, right now on the Zoom, you know, from all of our individual homes where we can connect and talk and share, sometimes thousands of miles apart, sometimes on the opposite side of the world. It's a truly magic time, and there's going to be some more innovations. There's going to be some more cool things going on. Each of the planets, of course, have got their story, their vibration, kind of like university centers in my perspective. And when we can get their lessons and incorporate them into how we interact with others and how we perceive the world and interact with others in our communities, in our societies, in our nations, then we're going to be on the right track and indeed surfing the cosmic now. And from now, then we can take a look into the future. I've been talking about 2021 and the beginning of this phase here in these air signs. Here's a lovely image. I happen to love the Art Nouveau piece. Here's Urania image by Giuseppe Mazzei. And yes, what a great emblem, what a great symbol for this new Aquarian time here. Magic and beauty and aesthetics, and the world just very lightly touched, lovingly, carefully touched, and full of symbology that is going to be really quite important and cool. But it's not the end of the show. It's just showing that Uranus, which is presently in the Earth sign Taurus right now, is very important, very significant. I'll say one more thing about that. You know that I'm using the 8 degrees Scorpio rising USA chart. When Uranus was at 8 degrees Taurus, thereby opposing the US ascendant, that was in May, late May of this year, of 2020. And it was exact in this chart within 1 day of George Floyd being killed. And then, of course, as we all know, the outbursts and the protests that was not confined just in the United States. It became a worldwide protest of wanting to have justice and fairness and a classic Uranian upset, the revolutionary planet here. It's not all roses here with this planet, but revolutionary changes. In fact, you take a look at when the planet Uranus was discovered in 1781. That was the midpoint between the U.S. Revolution and the French Revolution, and there was Uranus discovered right there in the middle. Fascinating. I love that. So I mentioned here the 2022. As you can see here, is mentioned. As I said, I already believe that the United States is having it's the beginning of its Pluto return, and it will be exact at that point. But again, because Pluto moves so slowly, that it's, many years, for probably 2019 to maybe 2024, and beyond, because that's the thing also about these transits that could happen. Let's say like a Mercury-Venus transit. It just is on 1 day. But if it happens to hit your chart, and you have an epiphany, or you meet someone, it can change your life forever. So some of these transits, they may be ephemeral, they may be passing, but yeah. Honor all of them, just like little Mercury going direct on the election day and throwing people off and putting people into a state of agitation and wonder and debate, all of that. So you notice here that the 2026 year is mentioned, and I had talked about that in my preface here, that I'm going to be paying attention to that. Yeah, we got a couple of more years before that happens, but it's going to be quite interesting. Here is a chart here for the 20th of February of 2026. And take a look up there in the 10th house. I have this also set for Washington, D.C. Power-packed, bunch of Pisces elements here. But in a kind of like a mirror sort of thing, that these two very slow planets are leaving one sign, going into the next sign, still at 0, not at 1, but moving into a new sign, and then they conjunct, a variation of what's happening here with Jupiter and Saturn right now, right here, right now. And yeah, so here we have the Neptune and Saturn conjunction going into fire sign Aries, very powerful, very potent, revolutionary. This is truly one of those things, although I set this here for, Washington, D.C., of course, this is an aspect that is going to be felt worldwide. And it is coming on and finishing up the last time that they got together, which was in 1989, and that was, again, the fall of the Soviet Union. These two, when they get together, is connected to what is called the communist pairing, whenever they have gotten together ever since Neptune was discovered. And yeah, of course, that was a very big year, 1989 and the fall of the Soviet Union, as well as Tiananmen Square in China, where they tried to have reform there, but it was squashed. So my sense, number one, is that some of the more Soviet or communist-oriented countries are really going to be feeling this quite strongly, maybe a second or third revolution, depending on the country. And then those other countries that have been, let's say, resisting, like social welfare, social security, Medicare for all, and things like that. By this point, I think they're going to say, okay, well, it seems to be inevitable. It seems to be the smart thing. And even financially, actually quite a lot better than our present system. So yeah, I'm sure the closer that we get to this point, there's going to be many other astrologers talking about it excitedly or in great apprehension, because it is in Aries, the beginning of Aries. Could be some fire, could be some strong reactions, strong responses to that. And as I had told in my forecast here about this talk tonight, that there's going to be some conservatives who will not appreciate this. So I have shared quite a few different things with you, and I wanted to quickly share something else that I think is a part of the Aquarian phase, this air phase coming in. Coincidentally, this is a little invention of mine, and I call it the Watch It. And it is a watch here for the right brain. Analog, regular time is a left brain thing. By the way, take a look at this image here, and what time is it? It's 11:11. The Watch It is something that I have developed. It's been on my website for a long time, but now it's turned into an app just here within the last 2 weeks, and it shall be an Apple product here within another week or so. But now you can find it on the Android Play Store, and it is a synchronicity app, and one can ask questions, and it works on at the right time, randomly. There is to be found a lot of answers, lots of things that you will find quite interesting. Now, can you see this now? Can you see the website, Watch It?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks, Alenka. And yeah, so a synchronicity watch, and you will notice this, I've got it on the timer right now, and images on the right-hand side, this is for the right brain, they come and go, and the analog clock is on the left, and yeah, it's 8:30, just on time here. And as you periodically look at your watch, you might pay attention and just say, oh, what time is it? And then you look and, and then you really weren't paying attention. And you say, oh, what time is it? And then you have to look at it again. So we sometimes do that absentmindedly, but there will be sometimes with the Watch It and Watch It app, or this example here online, that there will be these images that come and go. And there is a randomness, but the images of everyday symbols every day. I didn't want it to be too technical so that more people can play with this. That you can use this, and as I said, you can just get onto your Android app and type in the word watch hit, watch-hit, and you can download that for free. It's going to be for sale in a month or so, but right now you can get it for free. And you can, besides that, you can also choose what's called the e-oracle, and you have a question. What is that? For instance, I can ask any words of advice for this upcoming new phase here of the Jupiter-Saturn in Aquarius. Click, ta-da! I mean, I have to have a lot of respect and trust in this system working. I didn't want to have a negative symbol, but it's just the right symbol because, of course, it's true. That is, something to be said about yay, air sign, yay, Aquarius, good times coming ahead. Nice, nice. And so, again, you can just ask questions, click it, and it's not only for fun, it can be for brainstorming and educational uses too. And I'm hoping actually to get more people interested and involved with something like this so that ultimately they can say, wow, from here, from this little app, then I take a look out into the world, out into nature, and synchronicity, of course, is everywhere. We in astrology, we in the metaphysical world, we know that, but I would like to get the larger world interested and excited about that sort of thing. Okay. So there we have it.